This is from that GOES satellite. You hear about GOES East on our show from time to time, and we get some really beautiful high resolution imagery, and you can just see all of the clouds across the Carolinas this morning and offshore. And that's where the heart of this is offshore. We've got a upper level low offshore that is really kind of driving a lot of this. I'm popping up the Weather Service site because I can actually show you here, just off to the right side of your screen, where you see purples and reds. Those are things like hurricane force wind warnings, because we have some really tight pressure gradients with this system, and a lot of it, luckily, is offshore. But if you were out there, if you were going out in a boat, you're going to encounter probably some rough surf, but also a lot of that pressure gradient, a lot of very windy conditions, in other words. And so that's what we were fearful of this morning in Charleston. But luckily, this thing seemed to have tracked just far enough offshore that while we're still getting some of the winter weather across the Piedmont and some of the heavier rain, we're not seeing the worst of the flooding and the heavy winds that we were anticipating. Now, we will need to watch this in the Outer Banks, because you can see just how intimately closer you are to some of those offshore storm warnings. We even have a coastal flood advisory out this morning for Morehead City, and just to show you a little bit of what that says, you can see it here on your screen. Coastal low. Pressure rapidly intensifying off the North Carolina coast today into tonight. Northwest winds will increase to gale to storm force by this afternoon. That become northwesterly and remain strong this evening until after midnight. Reading this from the National Weather Service in Morehead City. This will produce large, dangerous seas of 10 to 15 feet from Cape Lookout north and result in minor beach erosion tonight. The strong winds will also elevate water levels for down east Carteret County by this afternoon. Then once winds shift northwest, water levels will rise along south side portions of Outer Banks. And water levels are expected to peak to 2 or 3 feet above normal, or 1 to 2 feet above ground level. The low will track quickly northeast just off the northeast coast today and tonight, while improving conditions are expected by midday tomorrow. So the summary from the National Weather Service in Morehead. You can see as we go through the next few hours, more rain across the Midlands, the Low Country, the coast. We're eventually going to get into Wilmington, eventually get into Raleigh, but check out those blues there in that Charlotte area. We could still be seeing a brief flurry or two before lunchtime. Then the low tracks along the coast, which will bring rainy, windy conditions and minor beach erosion to places like Wilmington, out towards Atlantic Beach. You can see as we go through the remainder of today, this low will track near the Outer Banks. Again, that is where we're going to see the most impacts with regards to coastal impacts, water impacts, flooding. Minor flooding could be a problem along the Outer Banks because, as we were reading a few minutes ago, you're going to have some of that onshore wind at times before this eventually just becomes a nor'easter of sorts. And by later today, by tomorrow, we'll be impacting folks in the northeast. But again, it really seems like for the most part it's staying offshore. Let me play that through a little bit more in real time.